very own CD5 Congresswoman Ilhan Omar.
It was her first town hall of the year, meant to reassure people fearful of recent events in Minneapolis.
We must abolish ICE for good.
But instead it did the opposite, after a man in the front row squirted an unknown liquid at Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. The Democrat refused pleas from her staff to end the town hall early to get a medical check, saying she doesn't let bullies win.
You know, I've survived war, and I'm definitely going to survive intimidation and whatever these people think they can throw at me, because I'm built that way. Thank you.
The Somali-born US lawmaker has had the highest level of death threats of any representative, something she's attributed to Donald Trump's frequent attacks on her. Just hours before the town hall, he said this.
Some great people come in. They have to show that they can love our country. They have to be proud. Not like Ilhan Omar. Did you see that wise guy? You know, she's always talking about the Constitution, provides me with the following. The Constitution, she comes from a country that's a disaster. It's considered, I think, the worst. It's not even a country, okay? It barely has a government. I don't think it does. They're good at one thing, pirates.
Political violence is on the rise in America. In 2024, the US Capitol Police investigated nearly 9,500 concerning statements and direct threats against members of Congress and their families and staff, more than double the number seen in 2017. Last night's attack took place in the city that's become synonymous with the deep divide playing out across America. 2 people have been killed by immigration officials while protesting against their presence in Minneapolis. Mother of 3, Renee was shot in her car on January the 7th, while intensive care nurse Alex Pretti was shot in the street last weekend while filming officers. In an interview last night, the president promised to de-escalate a little bit and softened his previous statements against the victims, both of whom had been described by his administration as domestic terrorists.
The bottom line, it was terrible. Both of them were terrible. The other was terrible, too. And I'm not sure about his parents, but I know her parents were big Trump fans. Makes me feel bad anyway, but, I guess you could say even worse.
Despite the promise of a small de-escalation, the mood in America remains tense, with protests in Minnesota and California, while ICE agents continue to deliver on the president's immigration promises. Joining me now, Desmond King, who is a professor of American government at Oxford University. Do you think we've got used to political violence in America? Were you surprised when you heard about the attack?
I think used to it is the wrong description. I think it's familiar and it's not completely surprising, but I don't think we're used to it. I think it's still shocking because for advanced democracy, and compared to other advanced democracies, there is more political violence of a fatal type occurring on a regular basis. So although we have violence in other states in Europe or Japan or Australia most recently, I don't think we have the scale of US political violence is greater.
Do you think who sits in the White House impacts the level of political violence we see?
So I don't think it's just a function of who's in the White House. It is now more a function of how polarized American voters are and how the gap between ardent Republicans and ardent Democrats is greater than it's been for some time.
Because the Congresswoman who was attacked in this incident has always blamed Donald Trump. Obviously, Donald Trump has laid many attacks at her door, but you don't see it that way.
The wider context is one of increasing attacks on public figures. Members of Congress have been reporting, attacks on their local offices. They have had to increase their security. Senator Lisa Murkowski has said that everyone is afraid. She's a senior woman Republican senator who said this sort of 20 months ago, that the atmosphere, or maybe it was last summer, sorry, but that the atmosphere in general in politics has increased. And it's spread over to threats towards non-elected officials who serve as election monitors for polling days. It's fallen over to election officers responsible for registration of voters. So it's very widespread.
Well, why is political violence so prevalent in America compared to other democracies?
That principle that local communities should defend themselves was put into the Constitution, and particularly through the Second Amendment, which is about the right to bear arms as part of a militia. And the principles of freedom of expression and freedom of assembly, which are in the First Amendment, are just embedded in the system and really important. So I think if we take the historical perspective, the fear that a federal government will overwhelm local citizens is the basis behind allowing the arming of individuals.
How optimistic are you feeling for America at the moment? What potential is there for finding common ground in this era of deep, violent political polarization?
Well, I don't think it's going to be easy. I think these recent incidences in Minneapolis have been a little bit shocking for Americans. These are two, Renee Good and Alex Pretti are, as it happens, both 37. They're both American citizens. So, which seems odd in the context of a campaign to remove and deport immigrants, that they should have been become the victims of that use of federal authority. Donald Trump, when he was a candidate, made it very clear that one of his goals was to stop immigration of illegals and to deport people who were undocumented in the US. So he got support for that, and that's what he's done. He's delivered it, and it's been extremely popular. It's the one issue on which I think he's given the highest ratings by his own voters and independents. But there has been some pullback on that basis.
So you think this might be a turning point?
I do. I do actually. Yes. I think it's. I think it's a very stark moment. However, interpretations of the events are polarized and reflect different views.
Professor Desmond King, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.